Everything we do is going to be about winning. Okay, we're going to learn to do things the right way, and that's the only way we're going to do them. Because if it doesn't help us, we're not doing it, man. That's just as simple as it gets. Win the Super Bowl.
That's good.
I mean it, too. You know, one of the things that the only reason you become a head coach in this league, in my opinion, is to win. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you do it for any other reason, you're wrong.
Hey football fans, welcome to the Washington Command Center. After a Week 2 game that should not have been this embarrassing, we got let down by a couple position groups. Now, instead of saying we sucked here or there, crying that the season's over after 2 of 17 games, I want to point out how we can make it better. We can't go through a whole season hoping guys get better. We got to make some moves. We got to take a look at other teams' practice squads around the league. We got to look at free agency, at the waiver wire. We got to look for anybody that could provide a boost in this new era of Washington football. An era where this proud franchise can once again command respect. And what better way to kick off this new era than subscribing here to the first, the real, the OG Washington Command Center, so you can find your way back to some of the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Washington Commanders. While you're here, ring that bell, hit that like button. It's free to do, and it means a lot. So this is basically going to be a podcast because I want to touch on so many things. I'm going kind of long form here. First off, before I eat some crow, I want to address the JDR and Jamin beef. I just got to say, come on, Commanders fans. And come on to my fellow content creators. Don't be this easy. Don't let the sports media play you like a burgundy and gold fiddle. Instead, check out the source interview. Like, you know, all my fellow content creators should have. Instead, they let the media get them with a chopped up soundbite. If, you know, they would have watched JDR's interview, they would have saw that the reporter asked a very specific, long-winded question about Jamin getting cooked by the Jags. Clearly leading Jack Del Rio into the drama zone, but in a nice enough way that he felt obligated to answer. It was nothing really out of line, but clearly, you know, steering him towards drama. So, Del Rio gives them an honest, fair answer. One that ended by Jack wholly sharing the blame with himself, Jamin, and the coaching staff. Jamin needs to do better, and we need to do better at not putting him in those situations. Perfect, honest, shared responsibility, not the scapegoating people are making it out to be. In fact, it's pretty much the exact opposite of blaming or scapegoating. But the fans, you know, they're just seeing the clips. They're responding to a clip that begins with Jack Del Rio's original answer and is purposely cut off before his, you know, sentence ends with we need to do better part. And then they combine that with his irritated response from when a reporter tries to ask him another one of those, what do you think about how bad Jamin played kind of questions, just 2 questions later. But Jack knows they're just trying to stir shit, and he gives them some attitude and bluntly says, I've already given you enough. Meaning, I already answered that question pretty fairly, in my opinion. Then he talks about how well Jamin did this offseason. He just expresses his surprise that it didn't carry into week 1. He says Jamin will be challenged to play better, which is a coach's job. Then he makes a comment implying that he knows that the media will present what he said the way they want to, aka that they would twist it up and try to squeeze every ounce of drama they could out of it. Well, Jack was right, and he went on to defend his position, specifically saying that he's not trying to bury Jamin Davis. He also highlighted Jamin's work ethic and preparation and how great it was, and that he was just surprised that he didn't play better. And then he said that Jamin would want better for himself. Nothing outlandish, nothing remotely laying blame. Throughout that whole encounter, Jack was just fairly answering the questions asked of him. He shared responsibility, he complimented the player, and he tried to highlight other stuff to try to defend him. This same thing happens. These same kind of questions happen all around the league every week. And people don't hype it like this. But Washington fans just got by the media this week. The fact that people don't like some of Jack's completely unrelated previous comments made them quick to jump on anything to try to make Jack look bad. I mean, let's be real. It's crazy, for as milquetoast and fair as Jack's comments were, all this popped off. And the same fans that jumped on Jack for calling out, blaming, or scapegoating Jamin are the same ones in the comments calling him a bust, a wasted pick, saying he played like trash, saying we should trade or cut him. And most of those people are the same fans that shit on the owner for all his horrible free agent signings with one breath, and then scream for us to trade away half our team in 3 drafts for Russell Wilson with the next. Just kind of a bunch of hypocritical stuff. And I mean, just know y'all got. That's what it was. You got by the media. I mean, you especially know that now that Jamin has come forward since and said that the post was directed rightfully at the media, so Jamin didn't even get got. Y'all just misunderstood, which would have been pretty clear if you watched Jack's full interview. So back to eating that crow. I really thought we were farther along than we are. I thought we were stronger in the areas we aren't. I also figured with the shape of Detroit's team, injury-wise, we'd have an easy day. Big wake-up call. It's the NFL. You can't count teams out. I spent all offseason talking about how talented the Lions were, telling people that, that's not a look-past game. You know, we got to watch out for them. They got a lot of talent from a personnel standpoint. But then I got a little cocky in my prediction after week 1, and I contradicted that previous respect I had displayed for the Lions. And you know what? I might have jinxed the team. You know, this might be my fault. So, you know, that one's on me, guys. Me and the offensive line. Well, mostly the offensive line. The offensive line who let the defense get completely sapped of life. You know, 3 and out after 3 and out, kept our already, thin defense on the field the entire first half. Even with that, I'm sure the football gods wanted to remind me that I'm a Washington fan and I shouldn't get ahead of myself. But come on, the offensive line was a huge part of that loss. I also got to say that any fan that blamed Carson for this loss somehow, and I saw it, any fans that did that are nuts. Just cuckoo insane, just don't like the guy. Carson is on pace for a record-breaking 5,500 yards and 59 touchdowns this season. Which, I mean, he's on pace to have 25 interceptions, which isn't bad. But if you look at it in all honesty, only one of the interceptions Wentz has thrown so far was his fault. So it should be more like he should be on pace for 59 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. I said before the season started that I thought Wentz would have the best season of his career. I thought that he'd break 5,000 yards for the first time. I thought that we'd have 3 1,000-yard wide receivers, which would be the second time in franchise history for us. We had the posse. We had 3 1,000-yard guys in one year. And if we did that this year, we'd be the first team in NFL history to ever have 2 groups to get, 3 wide receivers have 1,000 yards. And I know Carson and the team might have some ups and downs this season, but and it might be a long shot to break all those records, but he has the pace, and we have the extra game with 17 games. I know a lot of that, the record stuff and all that, doesn't matter to other people, but wins are going to come along with that. We just didn't come along with it this week. So we got all the talent around him, and I don't know, just look at it as a bright side to try to bring some, a little fun to this. And I found another little crazy statistic here. I know people don't care about that, wins and losses, whatever. But I found a crazy little statistical coincidence here. Did you know it took Tom Brady 5 seasons as a starter to break 4,000 yards passing? 6 seasons in total since, he didn't play his rookie season. It only took Wentz 4 seasons to break 4,000 yards. The year they broke 4,000 yards, neither of them had a 1,000-yard pass catcher that season. Neither one of them did. Brady only had one 1,000-yard pass catcher for the first 6 seasons of his career as a starter. Carson's managed to produce 2. Tom Brady didn't explode as a passer until his 7th season as a starter, when he got Randy Moss and Wes Welker. Carson Wentz has kicked off his 7th season in the NFL here with us, with Terry, Curtis, and Jahan, with 90 more yards and 1 more touchdown out the gate than Brady did in his 7th season back in 2007, that crazy year he had. Now, I'm not saying Carson is Brady, but if it walks like a goat, it walks like a goat. So, with that said, as tongue-in-cheek as that is, I'm still confident in all the pieces that I've talked about after the last win and everything. I'm still happy. I think we just need to get some help in the areas we're not great in. And Ron needs to be proactive here. He can't sit here and just roll with the players he has on the roster like he did last season. When, last season he told the media, several times that he had the guys he needed on the roster. Sorry, that's just not true this year. And the moves we've made haven't been enough. I'm kind of worried that with the way Ron talks, that he's compartmentalized the staff on this team to the point that he's waiting for Polian or Stokes to get him a guy without giving him any input, like not telling him to go get a guy. Like he's just thinks that they're going to do it. And hopefully that's not the case, but it's clear we need some guys. I mean, we've grabbed a couple guys in the last couple weeks. Some of them are better than others, but after my previous video hyping the importance of possibly snatching some special teams help, it was tremendously evident just how true that was this week. And that's an area that could, have provided us a spark anytime in that first half. Maybe we wouldn't have had so much ground to make up in the second if we could have had somebody do that in the first. I mean, we got to see in college football, a football game already this season, LSU and FSU. We got to see special teams make a big difference in a way that won the game. This past week, we saw the Ravens set the tone on special teams right out the gate, and it carried them for the whole first half, even if it wasn't enough to stem the tide of Hill and Waddle, it's still an area where there are guys out there that could help us. So check out my commandeering capability returner video for that. There are quite a few return aces out there for the taking. I count down a few and give you my favorite pick. So, like I said, check it out. Spoiler alert, there's a local kid from Virginia that's a highly decorated college return man sitting on a practice squad ripe for the taking. But on to talking about these 20 or so players that could really help us out. So 2 weeks in, we have a pretty good idea of what we have to work with, and we're very badly in need of help. No real surprises in some areas, more clarity in others. We've had a tragic injury and some poor play through the first 2 weeks. And there's some areas now that have a bit of urgency. And they were areas I previously felt good in, but now we got to look for some more help in even more places. So we already knew we were weak at linebacker. We had some suspicions about cornerback that were kind of confirmed. We had a horrible blow in week 1 losing Phil. And with the pace in Detroit, we got to see just how thin we really were along the defensive line. Defensive interior specifically. Now, I love that we stole John Ridgway from Dallas. That was a great move. But I think we still need a vet. After that, with my guy, Derek Forrest, looking like he could be the starting free or strong safety, contrary to what every scouting report said coming out last year, I saw it. He can play free safety. Now we have Cam Curl's imminent return. With that, I want to take a look at some guys that could give us a bit of higher potential, mostly at strong safety, because I think that we could put Forrest back at free safety and plug Cam right back into nickel and just find a good guy to play at strong safety while, Butler develops a bit. And they could almost be interchangeable at that point as long as we get, a strong safety guy to come in and plug between them. So those are things I think could bump us up a bit. I also think that the Detroit game revealed some things that I didn't think were problems coming into week 2. And they're really serious problems with Roulier now. We don't know when he's going to be able to come back. It might be season ending. So I didn't think the interior of our offensive line was going to be a problem, but it might be now. And rather we go out and find another center so that Wes Schweitzer can swing at guard, which I prefer, or we just stick Schweitzer at guard like we're going to do this week, I believe, and find some more veteran depth at guard. We got to do one of those two things. Especially since Larson's still hurt, preseason darling Willie Beavers is on the IR. We're just way too thin. We got to find a guy somewhere. So let's start out there. Let's start out with the offensive line. I highly recommend that Ron gets in touch with J.C. Treader right away. Nick Martin is not the caliber of guy that we need. I'm sorry. Pray for the best, plan for the worst. And Schweitzer gives us that great option, but J.C. Treader's only 31 years old, and he's the highest caliber center available. He's better than Schweitzer at that position, and Schweitzer's better at guard. Now, the problem is J.C. Treader is the president of the NFLPA right now, and speculation is, he was kind of forced into early retirement because NFL teams are blackballing him for that. because of his role in the NFLPA and how relentless and passionate he was in his duties there. But Ron, being a very player-centric coach, I think he should be welcoming to someone involved with all that. Someone who's trying to improve player treatment. Especially with Chase hurt. We should be going after this guy. Tretter isn't missing a step. He was the 5th-ranked center last year, according to PFF, posting a career best 78.7 grade. And in his, 8-year career, he's always averaged mid-70s. All except for 2 seasons where he's a little banged up. Now, he hasn't been quite as good as Chase was playing last season before he got hurt. But Chase has never played as good as he was playing last year before he got hurt. So, he's a very consistent, high-caliber player that might possibly have a chip on his shoulder. J.C. Tretter might be pissed off that he's been blackballed. So, he's a guy we could bring in and could upgrade this, team for a lot of different reasons. And at the very least, he's a talented veteran that would keep our promising season from being derailed. So we should be on the phone with J.C. Tretter. After him, it's a far fall to the next guy quality-wise. But another quality veteran out there, a serviceable center, is Austin Ryder, who's 30 years old. He started his NFL career back with us back in 2015. We ended up putting him on the practice squad where the Browns stole him. And since then, he's had average to high-end play throughout his career. He's had a rough season last year, but he's still a guy that would give us a solid veteran presence. And he's more than enough for John Matsko to thrive with. Hell, maybe we'll see another Charles Leno type elevation if we bring him in. He's the same age as Nick Martin, but has put out considerably higher caliber of play at times throughout his career. He's also a guy that, like I said, he got to start here. So him coming full circle to give us a hand in our time of need would be pretty nice. Not much going after him out there in the center market anyway. I mean, there's Matt Paradise, who's kind of cooked at this point. And rookies like Alex Lindstrom. Those would probably be our best options after them. But neither instills confidence at this point. Really, Tretter or Ryder would have been the way to go. And if we decide to go, if we think we're too thin at offensive guard, which if Schweitzer's going to be plugged in there, we kind of are. I really don't think Sadiq or Chris Paul are ready for prime time yet, so let's go get somebody. I mean, Eric Flowers is out there. That's a no-brainer. Outside of him, if Ron wants to quadruple down on stacking up young players, specifically other teams' day 3 picks from the last 2 years like we've been doing, if he wants to swipe some more former day 3 picks, Deontay Brown is out there on his former team on the practice squad. 6'4", 350-pound offensive guard. This is a beefy boy. He was a 3-year starter at Alabama that I liked a lot in the 2021 draft. I think he has a lot of potential. He's big. He's powerful. He's got good feet. Just a solid body to plug into the middle of the line for pass pro. And honestly, I don't think he has much further to go to being ready to being like starter quality. Like, I didn't think he had much more to go coming out in the draft. 3-year starter at Bama, that's pretty good preparation. Now, the fact that he's on Carolina's practice squad is a little worrisome. They don't have the best offensive line. But we have John Matsko, and this kid has potential. We could definitely have made a much tougher go of it against the Lions blitz if we had a guy like this last week. Now, that's about all I got for guys in the offensive line. After that, let's flip over to the other side of the ball, stick in the trenches with those D tackles. After losing Phil, we have a massive need, not just for depth at DT, but real rotational pieces that can keep up a high level of production from that line. And a nose tackle type is a must. It should be our first priority, and as we saw, it was. John Ridgway is a great long-term snatch, but might not be that dude, for now. Sorry, folks. The Donovan Jeter and the Benning Potato ain't it. Whatever that guy's name was. No disrespect. I can't say his name. I definitely think that these guys, the Jeters and Potatoes, shouldn't be on the roster when there are other guys out there. And unlike a lot of my compadres, I don't think that Ndamukong Suh is the answer to the question either. We don't need, a senior citizen version of Deron Payne. I'm sorry. If we are going to go that far veteran, then Linval Joseph is my top choice. He's 3 years younger than Suh, and he's an actual nose tackle. 6'4", 330 pounds, not falling off as dramatic of a cliff in performance as Suh has been. And like I said, he's actually a nose tackle. He's probably the best of all current free agents in that position, and he's just waiting for a team in need. So Linval Joseph, if the price is right, we should definitely look at him. He'd be an instant upgrade in run defense. After him, maybe a little less elite, but with a lot more tread left on the tires, an extra first round pick to throw on that line. Not the last. There's a couple of these guys in here, but Danny Shelton. He's a real nose tackle, former first round pick, 6'2", 345. He's only 29 years old. He's been hampered with injuries the last 2 seasons, but he's almost perfect for what we're looking for. Before the injury, he was solid throughout his career and also flashed legit elite performances at times. Now, he's currently sitting on the Chiefs practice squad, but with Phil on IR, this is definitely a guy that deserves a spot on our roster if healthy. Another guy definitely worth taking a look at, another first round pick, Malcolm Brown, who's only 28, 6'2", 320 pounds. He had a down season last year, but the guy has put out consistently good, mixed with even some high-end production as a rotational piece, which is perfect for us since we just need him to be a contributor and not the guy. So he's a free agent right now, so we can bring him in on the practice squad to check him out. Still pretty young, but he's got a lot of experience. And he's still got that first round potential waiting to be tapped into in a more consistent manner. So Malcolm Brown, God, it's free. He's just sitting out there as a free agent. After the nose tackles, I got 2 guys that could give us that same kind of Suh, Payne, Allen type of rotational depth pass rushers. First being a wily vet and our final former first round defensive tackle we're going to look at here. Sheldon Richardson, 6'2", 295. 8.85 RAS. Pretty much, he's right there with Jonathan Allen and all that stuff. He's still got a lot of spring in his step. And if we can keep him fresh as part of a deadly rotation with Allen and Payne, he could be nasty. The worst season of his career was last year, and it was still above league average. And he would definitely go a long way towards giving us some peace of mind when it comes to interior pressure. Like, it would completely have avoided that situation where everybody got tired in the first half against the Lions. We'd have this extra guy so we could keep everybody fresh. And that's important in our defense. Now, the last guy I got here is a young pup. He was an undrafted free agent, and he's also a local prospect from Dansville, Virginia, that I really liked. And he's coming out of that dangerous Cincinnati Bearcat defense. Former, teammate of Defoe. And that guy's Curtis Brooks. He's 6'2", 290. He had a 9.51 RAS. He had a 4.9 vert, or 4.940 with a 35.5 vert. This guy falls right between Jonathan Allen and Aaron Donald from an athletic profile standpoint. He's sitting on the Colts practice squad right now, and I think he has the potential and the college pedigree to warrant a roster spot. We should bring this guy in. After D-tackle, on to what is undeniably our biggest position of need, a linebacker. We had the 30th ranked linebacker group in the middle of a defense with this much potential, and that's a problem that needs to be addressed. We've had a clear look now through 2 games, and the situation's a bit different than I thought. Jamin Davis has definitely got better at coming downhill, better at, run stopping and blitzing, though they curiously took him out in favor of Mayo in Detroit, which says, say what you will about Mayo's run stopping ability, taking Jamin's speed off the field with Swift out there was just kind of dumb, and it opened Hawkinson up well. And even though unfair matchups can be blamed for some of his problem in week 1, his pass defense, which was previously his best attribute, it's looked bad so far. But it's still light years ahead of Mayo, and it kept Hawkinson honest. So, a lot of us, myself included, were calling for his move to outside linebacker, but maybe he's better suited playing downhill in that Mike role. And he can still cover tight ends, no problem. But outside, he's going to have to, he's going to find himself on wide receiver sometimes. And that's not working. Maybe we could just put the mic in Cam's helmet when he gets back, to take all that extra think work off Jamin's plate, and just let him play ball. He can clearly do things Holcomb can't. So we need to keep him on the field. But there needs to be an arrangement where he can just go after it, basically. Now, with some of the players that are out there free or on practice squads, I do not understand for the life of me why John Bostic, David Mayo, and even Myler Eifler are on this team. There are players out there that could really, really boost this linebacker group in a big way. And we need to make those moves. We just cut all 3 of those guys and just add any 3 of these guys I'm talking about. The first one being a guy I've been banging the table on since last year. He's currently a free agent, and we don't even need to commit a roster spot just to check him out. we could just bring him in on the practice squad if we wanted to take a look. But I'm confident this guy would easily take Holcomb's spot. And that's Jalen Smith, who, you know, a lot of fans say he's toast. That's horse shit. 6'2", 240 pounds. He's only 28 years old. A guy that, you know, he was going to be a top 10 pick as a linebacker before he got injured in the Fiesta Bowl. And he racked up 226 tackles, you know, in those last 2 years at Notre Dame. He had 24 tackles for a loss, 10 pass defenses, 2 fumble recoveries, 2 forced fumbles. After taking a season to recover from his injury, he played in all 16 games from 2018 to 2020, where he balled out for Dallas, getting 417 tackles, 254 solo, 17 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 23 pressures, 18 pass defenses, and he had PFF grades from an elite 84 in 2018 to 70.2, worlds above anything better we've had on this team in 2019. Now, that was all before the talk about his contract being a problem with Dak's new deal started. And you could see the clear decline in Jalen's urgency. Not so much his ability, but his urgency. The effort dropped until Dallas replaced him with the first-round pick, Micah Parsons. He played better in, you know, a limited role while swapping from team to team last year. He swapped 3 times last year. And even changing from team to playbook last year, he graded better than Cole Holcomb, the best linebacker we currently have on the roster. Studying Jalen's play, it's clear he's not missing a step. It's all an effort issue. And I think Ron's attitude and how he treats players could be the key. He could get Jalen back to the kind of elite production he was having before. In all honesty, Dallas hurt his feelings. That's what it was. Dallas hurt his feelings. And I think that's the only thing keeping him from that elite play. Or at least close to it. If we could bring him here and give him a little bit of that Carson Wentz type, we want you here, love. And we could, you know, we could get so much in return. We could have a great pass defending, tackling machine at linebacker. And it's a type of massive boost to this team that we need. The craziest thing about Jalen is the fact that he's just straight up free agent. Like, that's nuts. He's not on anybody's rosters, and I refuse to believe that there are 64 guys in the NFL better than him. He's clearly better than anybody on our team. Jalen Smith should be on this team. After Jalen, I have another high potential linebacker, one that's flashed a bit but has considerably underachieved, and that's G.O.A.T. Davis. You know, Detroit's former first-round pick. He's only 27. He's sitting on Detroit's practice squad. He had a 9.07 RAS score. He's 6'1", 245. Like, this guy was getting Ray Lewis hype coming out in the draft, and for good reason. He played like a monster for the Gators, and he had all the tools to transition to the NFL with that same kind of impact. Unfortunately for him, he came to a Lions team that was trash. One that kind of ruined him. You know, quite a few sure thing first-round talents got ruined by that Lions team. And he still looked as good as can be expected in that horrible situation. But he still didn't look impressive enough for them, so they mercifully let him go after his 4th season. And after finally being free, he unfortunately found himself on the Jets, which was just as bad a situation. Here again, unfortunately, he got hurt. But now he's back in Detroit, who has a better coaching staff now, but he's on the practice squad. So he's a guy with far more potential than that. He should not be on the practice squad. And even back when he was on the pre-Dan Campbell crap defense, he showed far better performance than Bostic or Mayo. In my opinion, there's no reason that Jalen Smith and Gerard Davis at 27 and 28 years old don't have a roster spot when John Bostic and David Mayo do. It's just dumb. It's just loyalty for some stupid reason. But we need to win games. Throw those guys away. Let them compete. I'm sure they'll overtake Cole within a matter of weeks, and we'll have quality starters. I think they could provide even better play than Kevin Pierre-Louis did back in 2020, when he was kind of like an extra key little piece that helped, even with the bad schedule. Kevin Pierre-Louis was a big part of what made this defense work. There's two guys in Gerard Davis and Jalen Smith that could give us that same thing. After them, if you don't want to go for such a sure, proven veteran, since Ron's tend to go in for younger guys here, we got Kamal Martin out there, 6'3", 240 pounds. He's only 24 years old. He's a free agent. He's a little unproven in the NFL, but he showed that he was promising enough at times. So we should at least bring this guy in to have a look at him on the practice squad. You know, while he was with Green Bay, he flashed some high-end play. He's a real smooth mover. He's really athletic. He's really versatile. And in college, he played everywhere on the defense. And he splashed at every position. He even looked good, you know, out of the slot, which could make him a great fit, you know, for an early down nickel role. So we could keep a linebacker out there. So I think that, you know, this guy's got some potential. When he was with Green Bay, he performed, you know, pretty well in the limited snaps he had. He had 190 snaps. He ended up with 24 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 pressures, and a sack. Now, that was good enough for a very respectable 73.3 PFF grade as a rookie. His biggest knock and the reason the Packers moved on from him were missed tackles in practice, along with, you know, he had 3 missed tackles, and he gave up 40 or 50 yards in the passing game over 4 coverage snaps. So that's what they got rid of him for. He had a little rocky stint in his second year, but I think with his athletic ability and kind of his overall ability that he flashed in his rookie season, he's definitely worth a look. He's going into his 3rd year in the NFL. He's got some solid experience. And he's basically the same age as Devin Lloyd, a rookie first-round pick for, you know, the Jaguars. So he's already got experience in the NFL, and he's still very young. So I really think this is the kind of guy that, you know, if you could bring players like this in on the practice squad, it should be a no-brainer, man. I'm going to say that 100 times here. No-brainer. I don't know why we're not doing it. I don't know what Pullian or Stokes are doing out there. I don't know. They're just collecting paychecks to me at this point. After him, I got 2 young guys here that are either free agents or on practice squads from Ron's alma mater. You know, maybe if, you know, we put this out there and he hears it, it'll be enough to motivate him. But Evan Weaver is a free agent. He's 6'3", 240 pounds. He's 24 years old. This guy had monster production his final 2 years at Cal. He had 336 tackles, 191 solo, 8 sacks, 11 pass defenses, and 22 forced fumbles. During his whole time at Cal, he had 407 tackles, 230 of them being solo, 24 tackles for a loss. This guy even had 393 tackles in high school. Absolute tackling machine. Between high school and college, he had over 800 tackles. Now, this guy is far faster and far more explosive on the field than his testing would lead you to believe. His 6.27 RAS score just doesn't do him justice, but it's still considerably better than Darius Leonard's 4.89 RAS. And both these guys ran the same 40, so you know that a player can excel in the NFL at that speed if he has the kind of play rec and hustle that these two have displayed. This guy flies around the field. He's pretty good in zone coverage, and I've even seen him manned up and defending the Seahawks' 4th round tight end, Cody Parkinson, 40 yards down the field. Like, he can stick with tight ends deeply down the seam. And he defended a touchdown pass in that particular instance. He's great against the run. He's just scraping across the formation and penetrating. He's got a great motor and patience. Explosiveness, like I've mentioned, to get through the hole. He's also got the instincts and the intelligence to put himself in the right spots. He's behind some high-end first-round talents in Arizona. If one thing Arizona has, it's at least a lot spent on the linebacker department. So that's kind of pushed him down. And he was just shocking. I think he could be productive if given the chance. And I really think that, along with his testing and possibly the fact that he's from Cal, that might be the reason that he's not really gotten a shot yet. But I think he could. This is a young guy that already has all the mental stuff Ron is keeping Bostic and Mayo around for. He's already got all that on lock, but with more potential. On top of that, he's far younger. This is definitely a name not many fans would point out, but one that could, be a surprisingly huge upgrade. And one that could easily challenge Holcomb right off the bat. He could come in and execute right away. The other Bear is Cameron Good, 6'2", 240, 9.42 RAS. He's on Miami's practice squad, 7th round pick this year. Now, he played mostly outside linebacker or edge, but he was also given coverage roles there too, where he did pretty good. He was, not quite as productive as Weaver, only having 172 tackles and 98 being solo last year, but he had 38 tackles for loss and 22 sacks in those last 2 years to show the type of impact that he can make with his higher end athleticism. He's not built to be a strict pass rusher at the next level at 6'2", 240. And with his athleticism, he has tons of potential to transition into a full-time off-ball linebacker, a lot like we've mentioned with Shaka Toney here, but he's got more experience too, actually playing off-ball. He has all the tools and athleticism, the fluidity in space. This is another Cal Bear that Ron could bring in to help us out a lot. After him, we got yet again another local guy here in the same kind of role as Good, as a hybrid edge rusher, off-ball linebacker type from college. But this guy has amazing length. He would be crazy as a 4'3" linebacker. I've brought him up quite a few times. He just doesn't have the size to play edge rusher. But he's got the athleticism and mobility, and he'd be much better served as an off-ball linebacker where he could be a massive, massive asset. But once again, I'm going to talk about him. I've been banging the table since last year. 6'7", 248-pound, former UVA outside linebacker / linebacker hybrid, Charles Snowden. He spent last season on the Bears practice squad trying to make it as a defensive end. When he showed some rare ability to move in space for his size back at UVA. He looked great in coverage when put there at UVA. The guy looked like a giant safety at times. He offers something rare off the ball as a linebacker with his length and fluidity. He could completely erase passing lanes, confuse the hell out of quarterbacks about the distancing they have. And he could be a real asset in disguising those 5-man fronts. You know, we put him at the Sam, like, you know, some of us have mentioned about Shaka Toney. We could put Charles Snowden there, who's got far more coverage experience. We can have him there. He's a good guy as an extra rusher, but he's also somebody that could drop back into coverage and just shut down throwing lanes. This is a guy we should definitely be looking at. Plus, he's a homer, man. Bring this guy home. I think he's from Silver Springs, Maryland, or somewhere close to D.C., and he played for Virginia. Bring this guy back from the shithole that is the Windy City. Now, we're going to go into some more specialized players, starting out with some guys here that blur the line between safety and linebacker. So, basically, former safeties that have some size to fit that modern linebacker mold, but could easily flex into that nickel role for us. Two birds with one stone type guys that beef up the linebacker and the nickel. Types of guys that could play that Landon Collins type nickel perfectly. You know, anything to get more speed on the field after how embarrassing our linebacker group looked when Swift ended up sitting on the ground and still had time to get up before a linebacker could get near him and then swerve our whole secondary for a touchdown. We just need more speed on the field, especially at the linebacker position. Starting out, another guy I mentioned last year, Nick Muse. He's on Seattle squad, 6'2", 230 pounds. He was a safety at Clemson, showed off some nice playmaking ability there alongside of Isaiah Simmons. Kind of got shuffled down because of Isaiah Simmons. Everybody was more wowed by him. But he was converted to linebacker by the Raiders, which was a perfect move. That's where he should be. But then he was purged by the new staff, and he's a guy with athleticism and coverage ability, plus size. And, you know, he has that coverage ability from his time as safety, and he's got the size and strength to come downhill and play against the run. I brought him up, like I said, last year as a guy that could fill Landon's role perfectly. And in that same vein, a guy that's even, I think, could be even more athletic, even though he didn't test because of a knee injury. He definitely looked more impressive athletically on the field. Here's another chance for us to steal away another team's 6th-rounder from last year. High character guy like Ron likes, Hamza Nasiruddin, 6'3", 250 pounds or 15 pounds. He's a guy that a lot of us Washington fans liked coming out of the draft last year. He's long, athletic, rangy, and explosive, and he can hit. PFF called him the quintessential dime safety in their draft profile. But he had the size to easily transition to linebacker, so he was. This guy is bigger, stronger, and faster than Darius Leonard, Nakobe Dean, and maybe even G.O.A.T. He's at least bigger and stronger than G.O.A.T. He played everywhere on that FSU defense. You know, he actually, even with all that size, he played slightly more in deep coverage than he did in the box. But he also lined up in the slot. He lined up on the defensive line as a pass rusher, and even at corner, going head to head with T. Higgins. You know, he had that great play where he picked off Trevor Lawrence with a beautiful sideline toe drag, full extension, snatched it off the bench. Trevor Lawrence was throwing that thing out of bounds, and Hampsa still got it. This guy was so exciting to watch in college. He was going to be a day 2 player easy before he tore his ACL, and things haven't worked out for him. He went to the Jets. That's not a great place to go, even with, you know, Robert Saleh now there. It's still not a great place to go. He's got a ton of potential, and the athletic profile and the skill set that would be a huge upgrade in that Landon Collins role. Or, you know, this guy would, you know, provide great speed, and just, he would add so much to, I'm kind of getting tongue-tied here. He would add so much to the linebacker group. You know, the idea of Jamin, Curl, Forrest, Juice, and Hampsa holding down the middle of the field, or, you know, all the other positions outside of the corner there, would be amazing. We could cover every inch of grass. It would make things extremely easy on Kendall Fuller and William Jackson to have, you know, Jamin as our lone linebacker, unless you want to consider Hampsa that, but more like a dime position. If we just play dime and put Jamin, Curl, Forrest, and Juice out there, every inch of grass would be covered. After him, one of my favorite guys from last draft, who ended up getting snapped up by Philly in the 6th round. He was on their practice squad, but he's currently a free agent. So this is another 6th round pick we could just snatch up for free and put him on our practice squad. And that's Jacoby Stevens from, you know, LSU. He was a wide receiver, a 5-star wide receiver recruit coming into LSU. Since LSU is wide receiver U, and that room was so crowded, he went ahead and transitioned over to safety. I mean, you got to be a serious talent to, you know, be a 5-star recruit as a wide receiver. But transitioned over to safety so he could get on the field. And he made a ton of plays in coverage there with his ability to read, you know, not just the quarterbacks, but the wide receivers, to know, you know, all the little tricks they did and to get a jump on them. And he's also a guy that's got the size and not afraid to come downhill against the run and lay the boom when needed. You know, I think all his attributes and everything added up to him, you know, being like the perfect modern linebacker convert. And, you know, Philly was developing on that practice squad. But this is a guy that now that he's just out there, we should go get him. He's got the speed and the playmaking ability, and he could be great to plug into this defense. It certainly can't hurt any more than having David Mayo or John Bostic out there. This guy can play the run. This guy can tackle. He can do what they can do. But then there's 1,000 other things that he can do that they can't dream of. So any of these last 3 guys I mentioned would upgrade the speed on the defense massively. After the linebacker types, like I mentioned with Derek Forrest, I think he should be our starting free safety. And when Cam gets back, he should be our strong safety in base and our nickel when we are in 3 safety sets, which will be most of the time. So I think we need help from a box-type strong safety. Now, Percy Butler, I think, is more of a free safety type, and I think he needs to develop a bit. So we need free safety. We need strong safety help. Here's 2 UDFAs from this draft just sitting on practice squads that I think have massive potential. I was a huge fan of both these guys coming out in the draft, and they're just dependable players. First off, you got Brad Hawkins, 24, who blurs the line between safety and linebacker at 6'1", 220. And maybe that's a move too. Maybe we put him in that same group from earlier, but he showed that he could do it all over the field, Michigan. Actually playing most of his snaps in deep coverage, even at that size, like Hamsah did. But playing, significant plays out of the box. He was a physical run defender. He played well from the slot. Like, he did it all. He performed great last year. He graded out with an 83.2 overall grade according to the PFF. He didn't test super well according to his 7.68 RAS, but still, it's super shocking that this guy went undrafted. He's sitting there on the Patriots practice squad, and I think he'd be a great fit to throw in the middle of us, at strong safety. Or even if Cam wants to stay at strong safety, this is a guy that can fill out the Buffalo role too. And another player, very similar to him, Wanye Thomas, not from as big a school, 6'1", 215. He played at Georgia Tech. This guy balled the hell out at the Shrine Bowl. I really didn't know who he was until then. All week in practice, he balled out, and especially in the game. Honestly, at the end of the game, when my favorite player in the Shrine Bowl, Diego Fagot, ended up with the defensive MVP, I was actually a little surprised. Even with the impact Diego had, he made like 8 tackles, he had a sack, he had a tackle for loss, might have even had an interception. I was still a little shocked because Wanye Thomas made significantly more plays than even that. And he's just a player that's looked capable of consistent playmaking. And a guy that could, fill that role really nicely. The role between Cam and Defoe, just great. And it's another chance to steal a guy from Dallas since he's sitting there on their practice squad. On the other hand, if we want to keep Defoe at strong safety, I think we could use some help at free safety until Percy Butler develops. Sorry, I just don't think Bobby McCain or Jeremy Reeves are optimal in deep coverage. I think we could get a little help from J.R. Reed Jr., 6'1", 202-pound, Georgia free safety. He had a 5.4 40, 8.33 RAS score. He was a disciplined, versatile safety for Georgia. He's currently on the Raiders practice squad. When he was in Georgia, he played everywhere in 2019. Slot, box, deep, cornerback, even off the line. He was great in coverage. He can hit, play the run, rush a bit. He was even a bit of a ball hawk. He did well enough to be a finalist for the Jim Thorpe Award, the best DB in college football. And he was also a finalist for the Bronco Nagurski Award, the top defensive player at any position. As a finalist, he beat out some tough guys in the semifinals. Guys like C.J. Henderson, Javon Holland, Xavier McKinney. He beat them all out for the Thorpe Award. And he competed against Jeff Okudah and Grant Delpit, who eventually won the award in the finals. He was a Nagurski finalist with Derek Brown, Isaiah Simmons, Antoine Winfield, and the eventual winner, Chase Young. He graded an impressive 81.0 overall his senior year, according to PFF. A high school ACL injury that never affected his play in college was apparently the reason he was undrafted, which is a bit nutty for how well he played against, the best competition in college football. And That, along with maybe the fact that it was an insanely deep, high-quality safety class, pushed him down. You know, Grant Delpit, Antoine Winfield, Xavier McKinney, Kyle Duggar, Jeremy Chin, and our very own Cam Curl. Maybe that's the reason he went undrafted. But this guy was top-notch in college. He's only played 56 defensive snaps so far, and he ended up with 13 tackles, a quarterback pressure, and a PFF grade of 71.6. At 26, he's versatile, he's young, and he has a solid college resume. I think he has the potential to boost our secondary. I would actually prefer him to what we're paying Bobby McCain. Speaking of that secondary, I'm super pumped with the additions of Wild Goose and my dude, Tariq Castro Fields. William Jackson III is not playing up to snuff, and even Kendall Fuller's floundering a bit. So it's clear we need some help. And while I love that we picked up Castro and Wild Goose, I think we need some veteran help. And I think we can throw, William Jackson III or Kendall. After this week, they were embarrassed. And these young guys might not be ready to go out there yet. But honestly, neither is Corn Elder. I think we could throw those young guys out there and give them a chance. But I think we'd be better off giving Corn Elder spot to another former Ron guy. And that guy's Darryl Worley, cornerback. He's 27-year-old. He was Ron's third-round pick in 2016, and he played his best football for Ron and was easily the best cornerback on that point, at that point in James Bradbury and Corn Elder's career. But the rumor was Ron was worried about his nightlife, so he traded him to Philly, where, that nightlife was even more of a problem, I guess, and that's done it a promising career. But since then, he's had 5 years to mature a bit, and with a career barely hanging on in the Ravens practice squad, maybe we should check him out. We should see if, we can get that trajectory that he had with Ron in year one back on track. I think we definitely need the help. And it would give him more of an opportunity to see the field than the one he's getting behind the best secondary in the NFL in Baltimore. I really think that at the very least, he's a big upgrade to Corn Elder. And we need that. I think any of these guys could be a huge boost to this team. And it could be the kind of boost that could right this ship and set us up for a lot of dubs in this new era of Washington football. An era where this proud franchise can once again command respect. And what better way to kick off this new era than subscribing here to the Washington Command Center so you can find your way back to some of the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Washington Commanders. Please remember to hit that like button, and if you listen this long, I love y'all. Peace.